welcome to Berlin and the FINA Diving World Cup of 2022. Presenting is the much-loved Schwimm- und Sprunghalle in the Europa Sport Park. And this is the second day of finals action. We have 3 medal events taking place today, one of which has already happened. Now we head on to the men's synchronized 3-meter springboard final before concluding our coverage with the women's 10-meter platform competition later on this afternoon. It's a very pleasant day in Berlin. It's a little on the cold side, but quite bright and sunny. Can be really lovely conditions this time of year. However, the rain can come pretty quickly, as happened yesterday. But so far, there is little storm weathering that's required of the Chinese divers because they've been in terrific form, taking all of the available gold medals. It's also been a very good competition for the German divers too. Some excellent performances from them. Now what will we see now in this men's 3-meter synchronized springboard final? We shall find out in just a few minutes or so as the action resumes in Berlin. It really is a great pleasure to have your company for all of the action at this doubleheader weekend of diving and swimming World Cup competition in Berlin. And we are set to begin the men's synchronized 3-meter springboard final in just a matter of about 5 minutes or so. With the women's, I should say, a 10-meter platform final still to come. Tomorrow, we'll have 2 individual finals, the women's 3-meter springboard and the men's 10-meter platform, and there will be the team event as well. And all of this happening right next to, literally right next to the Swimming World Cup, which is taking place alongside, metaphorically and literally, and the latter, the first time ever that's happened in FINA competition. So after the conclusion of the women's 10-meter platform final today, it's on to the swimming. But let's start with the competitors in the men's 3-meter synchronized event. Rafael Fogaça de Araujo and Rafael Almeida. A couple of 18-year-olds. Almeida on the left making his debut in a FINA competition. From the United States of America, Tyler Downs and Greg Duncan. Gentleman on the right, 19, 4 years older, his partner. And from Georgia, very experienced partnership of Sandro Melikadze and Tornike Onikashvili. They won a medal in a Grand Prix event back in 2019. We have Cao Yuan and Wang Zongyuan of the People's Republic of China, who participated in a fantastic individual final yesterday. Now they team up. Lachlan Cronin and Li Shixin of Australia. 13-year age gap between them. 21-year-old Cronin, silver medalist at the National Championships in the summer. The German partnership of Timo Bartel and Alexander Luber. Bartel on the right, competing in his first World Cup. It's already gone well for him so far. And the first ever Jamaican synchronized team, Johan Eskrik Parkinson and Yona Knight Wisdom. The less well-known Eskrik Parkinson, a great new arrival on the international scene. Now we'll finish with Colombia, Sebastian Morales and Luis Uribe, both 21. And they are the reigning South American Games champions. They won the title in Asunción, Paraguay, earlier this month. That's why they've been in such confident form, especially Morales, who won 3 gold medals. Uribe, I should say, won the 3 gold medals.
begrüßen Sie nun die offiziellen Kampfrichter für den folgenden Wettkampf. Please welcome our technical officials for
Morales,
the
I'm
session.
misidentified as being 21, he is 28.
First, Chairman of the Technical Diving Committee, Bashar Al-Safar. The Vice Chairman of the Technical Diving Committee, Jesus Mena.
Introduction of the officials. Now that we've got the competitors out and ready to take to the springboard.
Your referee on poolside, Mr. Christian Picker.
As I have mentioned throughout this World Cup, no qualification process for the synchronized events, so we don't have any qualification numbers to scrutinize. We do have that for the individual final that's coming up after this.
Judge 3, Mr. Lin Xiaomong. Judge 4, Mr. Tasha College.
It's one of those interesting things, isn't it, where there are certainly some athletes who'll be delighted to go straight into a final, and there are others who maybe would prefer the opportunity to test ride a few of their dives in the preliminary round, of course with the complication being that you're not guaranteed to get through the preliminary round if those test runs don't go according to plan. But it's not one of those things where there's a hard and fast rule for every single athlete in the whole world where everyone wants to qualify or everyone wants to just go directly into a final. It really depends on the individual.
Thank you, judges, and
it makes it a very interesting competition. As we have a look at the names of the FINA Diving Commission members. And the execution judges for this men's synchronized 3-meter springboard final. And of course the synchronization judges, whose mark is more heavily weighted, as you would imagine, for a final of this nature. So we have representatives from Brazil, the United States of America, Georgia, China, Australia, Germany, Jamaica and Colombia. 6 dives for each of the 8 teams. As is always the case in a diving final, it really goes so rapidly once we get underway. Very little time for reflection. The start is for the men's synchronized 3-meter springboard final at the Berlin World Cup. And looking to make it a continued clean sweep for the People's Republic of China, Cao Yuan and Wang Zongyuan. They have such an extraordinary collection of Olympic and world titles, including the synchronized title at World Championship level. So far, all of these reigning world champions have performed like reigning world champions. And that's why they've all taken top spot. But none of these other divers are in control of that. They can only control what their own performances are. And that's as good a place as any to get things underway. As ever, in a synchronized final, first couple of dives are fixed at 2.0 difficulty. And that's where we start now. Rafael Fogaça de Araujo and Rafael Almeida of Brazil. Inward 1.5 somersaults pint. 2 teenagers getting things underway. These young men were the silver medalists at the South American Games. Very impressive performance in Paraguay. They've started solidly here. 43.2 for Fogaça and Almeida. From the United States of America, we have Tyler Downs and Greg Duncan, starting with a back dive pike. 23-year-old Duncan from Virginia, 4 years younger Downs from Missouri. Gentleman with the lighter hair, Greg Duncan, very interesting sporting background. He was a very good American football player when younger, and also a lacrosse player to a high level. And this was a high degree of synchronization to get them underway. Good execution. I imagine they'll be reasonably satisfied with that. 46.8 for Downs and Duncan. Thanks for synchronization. From Georgia, Sandro Melekadze and Tornike Onikashvili. Starting with a back dive pike, what we've just seen from the Americans. Melekadze, 25, 3 years younger, is Sonikashvili. And as I mentioned earlier, they won a Grand Prix silver medal in Cairo back in 2019, their only FINA honours. It started also reasonably successfully.
7.5. 7.5. 8.
So 44.4 for Melekadze and Onikashvili. For the reigning world champions, Cao Yuan and Wang Zongyuan. Back dive pike from them. Very compelling opening from them. Lovely entry. Good case made for an early lead. It should be a comfortable one too.
Execution 9.
Beautiful toe point, the pair of them. Their heels stay glued.
9.5.
And those are very good numbers. Nines. 9.5 for synchronization, cropping up for a 54.6.
Australia.
Super beginning. Lachlan Cronin and Lee Shishin. Inward dive piked for them. Only one of those we're going to see in this first round. We will see it in the second. Such different stages of their careers, these two. Lee, 34, Cronin, 13 years younger. He makes his World Cup debut here. And it's a good beginning from them.
7.5.
45.6. Timo Bartel and Alexander Luber of Germany with a back dive piked in their first round attempt. A nice beginning from Bartel and Luber. Quite a sharp-looking display. One imagines this will do rather well. Might be the second best we've seen after the Chinese.
8. Synchronization. 8. 8, 8.5, 8.
And indeed it is, 47.4 for them.
Jamaica, rückwärts vom Sprung gehechtet, back dive.
2 to go. Jamaica, Johan Eskrik Parkinson, Yona Knight Wisdom, back dive piked. How great to see it is for these two teaming up and getting more and more international experience. And Knight Wisdom has no shortage of international experience. He's a great person to have alongside Eskrik Parkinson, who have developed so much as a diver from being alongside this gentleman. Certainly Knight Wisdom a little stronger from an execution standpoint. It's 43.2. And we have the last dive now, the first round. Sebastian Morales and Luis Uribe from Colombia. Reigning South American Games champions. Slightly juddery entry for their back dive pike. Let's have a look back at it. It's a lack of synchronization on the takeoff and certainly on the entry, but execution-wise, not too bad.
6.5, 7.
That's 41.4 for the Colombians. That has them down in 8th position of the 8. And that's the end of this first round with Cao Yuan and Wang Zongyuan in the lead. And as ever, it is an engrossing Germany and USA contest. Behind that, that's starting to emerge. Australia just over a mark behind the USA in 4th place. Let's go back round to the top again for the second set of dives. Reverse dive pike from Rafael Fogassa and Rafael Almeida of Brazil. Fogassa on the left won his first FINA medal in the Calgary Grand Prix in June. Mixed 3-meter synchronized silver. Better than the first dive, a 44.4 score for them. Tyler Downs and Greg Duncan.
United States of America.
Another reverse dive pike coming up.
Reverse dive pike.
Duncan on the left, an undergraduate at Purdue University. They look pretty pleased with that, the American fans watching on. One suspects with just cause. It was well executed, wasn't it?
8, 7, 8, 7.5. Synchronization.
Nice snap into and out of pike at the start. Very synchronized in how they did that. 46.8. Exactly the score they had with the first dive, so consistent start from the US. Now to the Georgians, Sandro Melikadze and Tonike Onikashvili. Reverse dive pike for them. So 3 reverse dive pikes in a row. We're going to have 2 more to come after this. And that That was a little wayward on the entry. Bit of recovery work to do from that.
Execution, 6, 5.5, 6, 6.5, 6.5, 6.5. Synchronization, 6, 6.5, 6.5.
38.4 for Melikadze and Onikashvili.
The People's Republic of China.
Now the pace setters from the first round, Cao Yuan and Wang Zongyuan, started with a 54.6. This is their reverse dive piked. Again, it has a cleanliness to it. Real degree of finesse to their work.
Execution, 9.5, 8.5, 9, 9.
Consistent opening from the favourites.
9, 9, 9, 9.
Such balletic toe point. .54 is the score.
Australia.
Just 6/10 down from their first dive. Great opening. Lachlan Cronin and Li Shixin from Australia. Reverse dive pike for them. Look, just a touch overcooked on the entry. It'll be interesting to see how this compares to the first dive, which was 45.6. One suspects a little lower.
7, 7.5, 7, 6.5, 6.5. Synchronization. 7, 7, 7, 6.5, 7.
That is indeed the case. 41.4.
Germany.
Down by just over 4 marks from qualifying, from the first round, I should say, excuse me. So used to referring to qualification performances. Timo Bartel and Alexander Luba, inward dive piked. Started very well, didn't they? 47.4, the second place team coming into this round. And they've given a good account of themselves once more with the cleanly performed dive. Should do well.
Execution, 8, 8, 8. 8.5, 8, 8. Synchronization, 8, 8.
Certainly they are the peloton leaders based on this display. Score 48 for Bartel and Luba.
Jamaica, reverse dive, pike.
Johan Eskrik Parkinson and Yona Knight Wisdom started with a 43.2. This is their reverse dive piked. Eskrik Parkinson, 22. He was born in Calgary in Alberta in Canada. Got his Jamaican passport earlier this year to form the first ever synchronized diving team that the country has had. So they'll take time to really gel, but there's very good early signs, really good. 43.2 for them. One thinks about things like the Pan American Games coming up next year in Santiago in Chile. And for them too. Sebastian Morales and Luis Uribe of Colombia. Forward dive pike. This is the last dive of the second round. Sitting here as well. And that's a 44.4. That is way up by 3 marks from their first round, so well done to them. It means that as things currently stand, Cao Yuan and Wang Zongyuan are very much leading the way. Bartel and Luba just behind them, or a fair way behind them, just ahead of the USA. Bit of daylight between the US and Brazil in third and fourth place. Brazil and Australia very close. So still a long way to go. Now we'll really see how things open up as we head into the third round. Rafael Fogaça and Rafael Almeida of Brazil. Forward 3.5 somersaults pike. This is a 3.1 degree of difficulty. A chance to see if they can really push themselves up the leaderboard and get towards third place. A little off, weren't they, on the takeoff, and that carried through to the entry, which was rather overcooked. Not the easiest of starts to the non-difficulty capped portion of the competition.
5.5, 5.5, 5.5. Synchronization, 6.5, 6, 6.5, 5.5, 7.
So 56.73 for the Rafaels.
United States.
Now we go to Tyler Downs and Greg Duncan. Same dive, forward 3.5 somersaults piked. Downs has been 6 times a junior national champion. This young man has been really promising. Interesting. Not without its complications, safe to say, that dive. They won the synchronized national title at the Winter National Championships at the end of last year. Got the synchronization back together towards the end. The entry was a touch jackknifed at the midsection. 57.66. So a little stronger than the Brazilians. That'll enhance their credentials above them. Sandro Milikidze and Tonike Onikashvili of Georgia had a problematic second round, 38.4. Now they're going for a 3.0 degree of difficulty, forward 2.5 somersaults, 1 twist, piked. They had a few lapses in the synchronization in flight. They were 7th at the European Championships, this duo.
6.5, 7, 6.5, 6. Synchronization.
Most of it was pretty solid. Got it back together for a decent entry. Leads to a 59.4 score. That's the best so far of this third round. Zhao Yuan and Wang Zongyuan performing a very complex dive, forward 2.5 somersaults, 2 twists, pike. This is a 3.4 degree of difficulty. It's the joint hardest we'll see in this round. And interestingly, they've opened the door with that one. That didn't quite work. Still asking a lot of the remaining teams, but a favour has been done. Have a look back at this again.
Execution, 8, 6,
Real
7.
splash created by the off-axis entry.
Synchronization, 7, 6.5.
63.24.
6.
Still the best that we have seen so far.
Australia.
Now this is Lachlan Cronin and Li Shixin. Forward 2.5 somersaults, 1 twist, piked. So this is a 3.0 difficulty. Now one wonders if they can make a push up the leaderboard as this competition goes on. Again, they're a pair who will take time to really gel as a team, but this was more promising. A little leg bend in the pike position, but nothing too egregious. That's a 64.8 for them. That is the best that we've seen from anyone in the third round. So well done to them. What will we get now from Timo Bartel and Alexander Luber? 3.1 degree of difficulty, forward 3.5 somersaults piked. It was just a moment of anxiety in the takeoff. They did seem to get it back together reasonably well. Let's have a look at this again.
Execution 7, 7, 7, 6, 6, 6.5. Synchronization 7, 6.5, 7, 6.5, 7.5.
62.31. So still that dive from Cronin and Lee, the best that we've seen.
Jamaica, 2,5 Salto vorwärts mit einer Schraube gehechtet. Forward 2.5 somersaults.
Forward 2.5 somersaults, 1 twist pike from Johan Esquik Parkinson and Yona Knight Wisdom. So another 3.0 degree of difficulty. Well, I stand by my earlier comments that there's real reason to be excited about this emerging partnership. And it's going to be exciting to see them at more and more international competitions over the years to come. This was perfectly solid.
7.5, 7, 7, 7.5, 7.
And indeed, with a score of 64.8, the joint best of the round.
Colombia, 2,5 Salto vorwärts mit doppelter Schraube gehechtet.
We finish with the team from Colombia, Sebastian Morales and Luis Uribe. 3.4 difficulty, forward 2.5 somersaults, 2 twists, the same that we saw from the Chinese team. Tricky dive. Now, it's a big gamble to produce something of that difficulty, and there was a lot to like about it, actually. They should do well, probably the best that we've seen.
7, 6.5, 6.5. Synchronization.
Entry to the water, a little more splash than ideal, but in terms of the flight, that was positive work. Gets them very close to 70, 69.36, best dive of the round. So that's an intriguing round, isn't it? Still the Chinese lead. Bartel and Luber in second place. Colombia have moved up into third position, courtesy of that very fine dive. The dynamic of the competition has changed a little. There's no reason for the fans of the world champions to get unduly worried, but certainly they're not as handsomely in front as they were. Now to Rafael Fogassa and Rafael Almeida. Forward 2.5 somersaults, 2 twists, piked. That had a slight sense of waywardness coming into the water. It was, again, quite secure at times in the air.
6, 5.5, 5.5.
On the right, a little less controlled form in the pike position than on the left.
6.5, 6.5.
There will be a little execution discrepancy. 63.24. It is the best dive they've produced so far. You would expect that with a 3.4 difficulty. Tyler Downs and Greg Duncan. Same dive that we've just seen. Forward 2.5 somersaults, 2 twist piked. This is their second most difficult dive. The trickiest one is to conclude the competition. for them, it's really about now pushing their way back into contention after not the strongest of third rounds. That will help.
7.5, 7.5, 7, 5, 5.5, 6.
Again, a little
7, 6.5,
execution
7,
discrepancy
6.5.
between the pair of them. $68.34. So they go into the lead for the time being. Sandro Melikidze and Tonike Onikashvili of Georgia with their 3.4 difficulty dive. This is their trickiest one. Forward 2.5 somersaults, 2 twists, piked. It lost its synchronization in the air in the flight phase of the dive.
Execution 3, 3.5, 3.5, 5.5.
Wasn't the most secure looking pike position. Leg bend and then some helicoptering of the legs in the twist. Or rather, yes, the twist position coming out of it, I should say. 53.04 as a result.
The People's Republic of China.
Zhao Yuan and Wang Zongyuan. Inward 3.5 somersaults. Tucked. So this is the same degree of difficulty as we saw in the last round for them. Not the most secure of third rounds. Let's see what the fourth will bring us. Now that looks like a return to form, doesn't it, for the world champions? And that's what really strong athletes do. They clamp down on a potential loss of control in a competition. This has them back on track, no question.
8.5.
It's an 83.64. Much more like it. Lead comfortably advanced. Lachlan Cronin, Li Shixin of Australia next to go. They moved up a little in the standings to fourth place coming into this fourth round. Forward 3.5 somersaults, piked, 3.1 difficulty. They did well in the last round, 64.8. Might be carrying on in kind after this. But well performed, didn't it?
7.5, 8.
Again, perhaps Lee just having a little untidiness in his pike position at times. 69.75 though will do the trick. So they go ahead of the USA into second place. What about Germany? Timo Bartel, Alexander Luber, fourth round for them. Forward 2.5 somersaults, 2 twists, piked. They are very fine synchronized divers, these two. Good record, good experience. Bartel, a world championship bronze medalist this year.
6, 5.5, 6.5, 7, 7.5, 7. Synchronization.
It was a well synchronized effort.
7, 7.5, 7.5.
71.4 for their forward 2.5 somersaults, 2 twists piked.
2.5 somersaults, 2 twists, pike.
Second best score of the round. To Jamaica, coming into this in 6th position, Johan Eskrick Parkinson and Yona Knight Wisdom. Forward 2.5 somersaults, 2 twists piked. Well, that one was not their strongest from an execution and synchronization standpoint. But this is their joint most complicated dive, so again, just give it a little time. A little helicoptering or windmilling of the legs from Night Wisdom.
777. Synchronization. 5.5.
Tricky entry for Eskrik Parkinson for a 58.14. Night Wisdom, graduate of sport and exercise science. Eskrik Parkinson's a remarkably bright young man. We'll talk more about him later. But let's finish off this round with Sebastian Morales and Luis Uribe. Very tricky dive. This forward 4.5 somersaults tucked. It's a 3.8 degree of difficulty, hardest we've seen in the competition so far. Big moment for the Colombians. And you know what? They really did give that a good old go. Very enjoyable, that. And it's bold and challenging diving.
Execution.
Will be their best score.
777. 6.5. 7.5. 6. Synchronization. 7.5.
Well done to them for making what they did out of that. That was solidly performed.
That concludes round 4 of 6.
78.66 puts them into the silver medal position with 2 rounds to go. So, good work again from Morales and Uribe. They're in second place. Bartel and Luba just behind them. Very close, actually, among second, third, fourth and fifth.
Round 5. Brazil.
Very engrossing competition we're getting to enjoy here. And thank you very much for your company. Great to have you watching this FINA Diving World Cup from the SSE in the Europa Sport Park in Berlin. Rafael Fogassa, Rafael Almeida, inward 2.5 somersaults piked, 3.0 degree of difficulty. Looked a little uneasy from an entry point of view. Again, let's bear in mind, these are two 18-year-olds. Almeida's making his debut in a FINA competition. Tight piked, and maybe opening up out of it. Body just remained a little bent. 55.8.
United States of America.
Fifth place coming into this for Tyler Downs and Greg Duncan of the United States of America. They were well positioned after the first couple of rounds. Now just about trying to get that back. Inward 2.5 somersaults piked. 3.0 difficulty. They've got their hardest dive to come in the last round, so they could put themselves back in contention quite easily. It's one of the most interesting things, isn't it, about a diving competition, the way that the athletes actually construct their program and where they place certain dives for sports psychology reasons, for physical reasons.
7.5, 8.
And it may be we're in for a good finish here from the USA. 69.3, their best score so far, so they go into the lead for the time being.
Georgia. 2,5 Delfinsalto gehechtet. Inward 2.5 somersaults pike.
Now we have Sandro Melikidze and Tornike Onikashvili coming into this in last place. Inward 2.5 somersaults piked, 3.0 degree of difficulty. Melikidze, the slightly more experienced of the two of them. He's competed at the World University Games back in 2019 during his undergraduate days.
Execution. 6, 7, 6.5. 5.5, 7, 6.5. Synchronization. 6.5, 6.5. 7, 7, 6.5.
59.4 for the Georgians, a joint best score for them.
Republic of China.
Now to the world champions, Cao Yuan and Wang Zongyuan. Reverse 1.5 somersaults, 3.5 twists. This free. And it's 3.5 difficulty. Oh, hello. Yes, that was rather nice, wasn't it? Oh, lovely twist position work. This will score beautifully. Arms going by the sides, toe points, heels together. Lovely position into the water. Bob's your uncle. 90.3 for that one. That was a treat. Lachlan Cronin and Lee Shishin from Australia. Back 2.5 somersaults piked, 3.0 degree of difficulty. Amazing, Lee has got over 50 FINA and Olympic medals. Oh, that was awkward, unfortunately, from these two. What a shame. But again, we temper it, don't we, with the realisation that it's a new and emerging partnership. Can't expect things to instantly work, even when you've got somebody like Lee there. 58.5. And there's good reason that the Australians are excited by the young man Cronin. So, Timo Bartel and Alexander Luba. Reverse 3.5 somersaults tuck. This is a 3.5 degree of difficulty, their joint trickiest dive. And that, unfortunately, is going to throw some complications in from a scoring point of view for them. Quite arched backs in the entry. A little bit of a gasp from the crowd as this happened. It's going to give them a lot to do, shall we say, going into the last round. Oh, tricky entry. Tricky. 45.15. Fourth position for Germany. Australia have now got themselves into the conversation. Johan Eskrik Parkinson and Jona Knight-Wisdom, sixth coming into this. Inward 3.5 somersaults tucked. This is their joint most complicated dive. It's 3.4 degree of difficulty. It's a podium that's up for grabs. There's no doubting that. And that brings with it a nervousness, perhaps a pressure for all of the competitors. A sense of unpredictability.
5.5, 6.5, 6, 5, 5, 5. Synchronization, 6.5, 6, 5.5, 6, 6.
59.16. That's them in fifth place, one to go.
Colombia, 3,5 Auersalto gehockt, reverse 3.5 somersaults.
It is the turn of Sebastian Morales and Luis Uribe. 3.5, the degree of difficulty for this. It's their second hardest dive, reverse 3.5 somersaults tucked. And my word, with the last round, they really put themselves into this. Second place. Can they keep it going? That is another spanner thrown into the works in this back and forth, twisting and turning final.
Execution, 2.5, 3.5, 2.5, 4.5.
Never quite there.
4. Synchronization, 4.5, 4.5, 5, 5, 5. That concludes our next
45.15, from second to fourth place, the Colombians. I said earlier that maybe the USA were in for a strong finish to the competition. Look at where they now are in second place. Australia are in third. Colombia have dropped from second down to fourth. The Germans down in fifth. Well, let's throw throw all the bits of paper into the air because we don't really know what's going to happen going into this final dive, and you know what, that makes it very entertaining, very entertaining. The last dive for Rafael Fogaça and Rafael Almeida of Brazil. Back 2.5 somersaults piked, 3.0 difficulty. Well, let's just say well done to these two 18-year-olds, especially Almeida, his debut in a FINA competition. They've participated in a World Cup final. It's all part of the rich learning experience in what has been a very positive year for the pair of them. Fogaça also, in addition to that silver medal they won in the synchronized competition, as the score of 47.7 comes in, took 1 meter springboard bronze at the South American Games. So let's keep the discussion going about those two. Tyler Downs and Greg Duncan finishing with their hardest dive, back 2.5 somersaults piked, 3.5 degree of difficulty. They've done ever so well over the last couple of rounds to really get back into the game. They now find themselves coming into this last round in the silver medal position. It's been topsy-turvy, but they're doing all right now. It's a little over on the entry, but it's a high difficulty, and they've certainly made a good case for themselves to feature. They do twist with purpose. Very difficult to align the body coming out of the twist position like that to get the right angle of attack for the water. And it's 65.1 for the USA. 354 is now the score to beat.
6.5. Georgia.
From Georgia, Sandra Melikidze and Tonike Onikashvili, forward 3.5 somersaults piked, 3.1 difficulty. This is their second most difficult dive to conclude their competition. They haven't had the easiest of days, these two, but they're experienced enough to know that it does happen that way sometimes. Certainly, much about that was solid. It was certainly their best so far. Nice way to finish, 63.24. So they're in third place at the moment, but we have a long way to go in this final round. There are your leaders at the moment, the United States of America.
The People's Republic of China. 4,5 Salto vorwärts gehockt, forward, 4.5 somersaults tuck.
Cao Yuan and Wang Zongyuan with their final dive. This is a 3.8 difficulty dive, forward 4.5 somersaults tucked. We've seen it so far from the Colombians. If they get this right, this could be an absolute show stealer. They are unbelievably good in the tuck position, just whipping round with such rapidity, and to get that degree of control of entry, it is marvellous stuff. Yes, is what you expect from them, but come along, we must allow ourselves to have our jaws drop every now and then. And to keep the heels so tightly pressed together on the entry after all of that. It's 96.9, and that is not just the icing on the cake, it's the icing and the cherry and a few candles as well.
8.5, 8.5, 8.5. And China taking the lead.
They've gone into the lead by a country mile.
Australia.
Now, what about Lachlan Cronin and Li Shixin? Third place coming into this round. An unpredictable competition. He knows his way through competitions. He's guiding this young athlete alongside him. Can they get onto the podium? Forward 2.5 somersaults, 2 twists, pike position. Three to go. So it's China, the USA, Australia.
Germany.
This is going to be interesting. They've been in the mix. The last round has taken them down to 5th place. Timo Bartel and Alexander Luber. Can they rebound? This is their reverse 1.5 somersaults, 3.5 twists. It's a big dive. And that is a strong conclusion to their competition with a 3.5 degree of difficulty. Certainly that's transformed from their other 3.5 degree of difficulty dive, the last one which scored 45.15. Well done to them for this impressive resumption of their challenge for a place on the podium. Where's it going to take them? .35, not quite. Just about 5 marks behind the Australians. Very good effort. So we have 2 to go. Johan Eskrik Parkinson, Yona Knight Wisdom of Jamaica. They conclude with a forward 3.5 somersaults piked, 3.1 their degree of difficulty. Their competition concludes, but we'll see a lot more of them, that's for sure, as the years go on. Just a word on the young man, Eskrik Parkinson. He's an undergraduate at Northwestern University, a very accomplished neuroscientist. He wants to go to medical school. Really has a terrific and promising life in and out of the pool. And how lucky he is to have a gentleman like Yona Knight Wisdom as a guiding influence alongside him in his career. He admires him a great deal. 63.24, their second best dive to bring their competition to a close, 5th place with 1 to go. So this is the big one. Sebastian Morales and Luis Uribe, 4th place coming into this. Inward 3.5 somersaults, tucked coming up, 3.4 difficulty. And certainly, they have the credentials and they have the potential to get onto the podium. And it's going to be very interesting. The wait now is on for the USA and Australia to see where Colombia are placed. 28-year-old Morales, 21-year-old Uribe. Decent amplitude. Not a bad entry. almost 68.34, and they have missed out by 2.1 marks. That was very tight. And very well done to the Australian team, who've held on in third place. We'll bring you the classified results in just a moment. But there are your champions, and they did it with such a wonderful quality of final dive. Just a brief flicker from them at the midway point of the competition, but champions know how to respond. The classified results in the men's synchronized 3-meter springboard competition. Bronze medal to Australia, Lachlan Cronin and Li Shixin. The silver medal to the USA's Tyler Downs and Greg Duncan. Zhao Yuan and Wang Zhong Yuan of China. The world champions taking World Cup top spots.
The audience, thanks for watching, and please stay tuned. Our next competition.
What a great moment it is for Lachlan Cronin in his World Cup debut, his debut in a FINA competition, full stop. Superb from the young man. But let's have a look at just how good Zhao and Wang were to win this competition. More to come. We have at 25 minutes past the hour, so in just under 30 minutes time, the women's 10-meter platform final. So don't go too far away. We'll see you soon for more action from the SSE in Berlin.
Es ist das Vergnügen an Teamarbeit, die Freude an purer Kreativität.